I tell you what, I'm sure there won't be many that cry for the departure of Paul Winstanley to Tottenham. A very, very interesting story indeed, published by Matt Law of The Telegraph, saying Spurs are looking at Paul Winstanley, Chelsea sporting director. Of course, the sporting directors at Chelsea, not the most favourite people within the fan base, understandably due to poor squad composition, I'd say, after huge investment and looking like a pretty weak team. Well, not lots of talent, but a flawed team. I think everyone would agree in that. We'll speak about that. As you can see, back on the green screen here in Football Therapy. Welcome back. Hope you're doing well, gang. Doing some green screen work. Looks like a proper streamer like this. Reminds me of when I played video games on a computer. So yes, we'll be looking a little bit at that from Matt Law. Also, Nizar Kinsella of the BBC has done a piece on Cole Palmer. Of course, a huge talking point at the moment, Cole. Does he need surgery? Can we get him back to his best? But we really do need him. It's so tough, man, because even in moments against Arsenal in that left pocket, he was demonstrating that he can occupy this space, that he can do these little, passages of play. I think it's the final action confidence. We're going to learn a little bit more as well what the situation is with his injury. Of course, he's desperate, understandably, to get into Tuchel's World Cup squad at a time when, of course, Foden's playing okay-ish again. Of course, you've got the preferred Morgan Rogers. There is Bellingham and others. Eberechi Eze's just, scored. He only scores against Tottenham, really, doesn't he? So we're gonna learn a little bit about Cole Palmer as well. I did want to speak a little bit about this international break stuff, but it's a little bit dry, man. Basically, they're condensing a couple of international breaks next season. There's going to be a 3-week international break around September and October, rather than 2. But I think it'll be one less international break, which will be maybe good, a little bit more palatable, I guess. Because we all hate international breaks. Every year, every time a new season starts, you get that one after 3 games, and then you have another month, and there's another one immediately, and you feel like we can never get going. We can never actually get started in the Premier League season. So to have maybe condensed and just sort of serve your time for longer, do you know what I mean? Maybe that makes sense. Maybe. So I'm not going to really speak about that in detail, but I do want to speak about these stories with Winstanley and Cole Palmer. Well, let's start with the Winstanley story. So this is coming from The Telegraph. Spurs step up hunt for sporting director with checks on Winstanley and Friedman. This is an exclusive. Of course, Matt Law covers Chelsea, but he does cover Spurs as well. So he's well placed to speak on this. He published this late afternoon yesterday at time of recording. So Spurs have stepped up their hunt for a new sporting director with checks believed to have been made with a number of potential candidates, including Paul Winstanley and Dougie Friedman. Winstanley is contracted with Chelsea until 2031. 2031. They've done with the sporting directors what they've done with the players, and they've contracted them for a long time. It's not expected that he will quit Stamford Bridge, though. They were looking at a bunch of candidates, Tottenham. They want to replace Fabio Paratici, who was sort of constantly going in and out of Tottenham as sporting director, wasn't he? Winstanley has been sporting director at Tottenham. I was like, no, he hasn't. Tottenham's London rivals Chelsea since November 2022, and of course alongside with other clubs' recruitment chiefs, he's been involved with the signings of Cole Palmer, Moises Caicedo, Estevão Willian and João Pedro. He also helped the club hire a number of head coaches, including Maresca and Liam Rosenior. Chelsea rewarded their sporting directors, including Winstanley, with new contracts that run till 2031 following their Club World Cup success. I would argue, okay, we'll get into this. Following the Club World Cup success last summer, and there's currently no expectation to leave Stamford Bridge. Well, This is a briefing. Look, we've got to be, well, I've got to be consistent here. I do like a lot of the signings. I like Estevão Willian. I think we got an amazing player for £29 million from Brazil. Like, as much as I would like to bring back some of the old regime in terms of just signing some of the better players, the more senior experienced players, we wouldn't have signed an Estevão before. And again, Cole Palmer. No one really would have signed Cole Palmer. I think we signed Cole Palmer because of Joe Shields. Probably not because of Paul Winstanley, to be fair. Lavia, who I think will come good for Chelsea, and Palmer, I think are Joe Shields signings at Chelsea. Of course, he worked at Manchester City. They are both from the Man City Academy. I mean, you can't just constantly sign Man City Academy players forever. Or maybe you can, who knows. But like, but the thing is with I don't even know what to say about these man anymore. Do you know what I mean? Because Chelsea, regardless, yes, I enjoy some of their signings, but I've also enjoyed the signings we signed before. I do need to be consistent in saying I don't think the Premier League landscape for Chelsea was sustainable. I mean, Roman Abramovich, of course, ran the club in his own way, where he wasn't trying to make money. He was just enjoying football. There was literally no other owner that was going to come and do that. I do like the incentivized contracts because I think it makes for better development. I've said that before. And I do think that's good. I also think players should be rewarded. We've spoken recently about the potential Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez pay rises. I think they do deserve it. Certainly Caicedo, but you'd say Fernandez as well as a sort of leader and servant. Though I did hear a crazy stat about the amounts of dissent yellow cards he gets, which is really unhelpful at the moment. It's the big question, man. You hear it on all Chelsea podcasts and publications, content creators. The ire of unhappy, discontented Chelsea fans is ownership and sporting directors. Some people are trying to dig out Liam Rosenior. I think that's quite unfair. I think he probably can be a very, very good coach. And Chelsea can still reach their targets for this season. I know it's looking increasingly unlikely that top 5 is achieved, but, a win tomorrow night against Villa. And we could do actually a bit of a lineup builder for that, actually, because they've got a lot of injury problems. A win against Villa could change the mood. It fluctuates up and down so much at the moment. But the sporting directors, I listen to a podcast straight out of Cobham quite a lot. And this is the Telegraph, not the Athletic. And there's a lot of questions about the sporting directors. When are they going to be held accountable for this squad building? A squad that looks like it's still severely lacking. That you can wax lyrical about your Palmer. Well, we're going to get onto Palmer in a moment, but your Palmers and your Estevãos and maybe even like Joao Pedro. He just won Chelsea Player of the Month. Deservedly, he's been excellent. Even he's been scoring goals, great goals, scrappy goals. He's been holding the ball up excellently. He really does deserve Player of the Month. But yeah, right. I understand. You look at that Chelsea squad and you think, well, there's just so much missing. It feels like there's so much missing. Even though if you say, Jan, what would you want? I'd go, centre back and a left winger, and I'd probably be chill for a while. But really, it's goalkeeper as well, isn't it? I know I keep saying I'm going to wait till the end of the season to truly make my decision on whether Rob Sanchez is the guy. But I think that Arsenal game was so revealing. Look at both the goalkeepers, and one was just way better than the other. And it's a title challenging worthy goalkeeper. You keep saying it. Look at every team that's won the league in the Premier League era. They've always had an excellent goalkeeper, and it's just I know everyone's jumping on the Rob Sanchez hype train sort of for the last few months, maybe last 6+ months or whatever, and I was willing to give him a chance, but he's never, ever felt like that guy. Do you know what I mean? And maybe Mike Maignan would have felt like that guy. And this comes down to the sporting directors as well. Winstanley and the freaking goalkeeping coach, I forgot his name. They've just loved this. This is what worries me the most. The fact how they really believe in players that I think everyone can quite clearly see isn't going to make Chelsea win a Premier League title in someone like Rob Sanchez. And I know I was trying to keep my powder dry till the end of the season, and maybe suddenly starts playing. But the thing is, even if he plays good again, I've just learned that he's capable of being good, but he's never consistently great, and that's what you need to win a title, and that's what Chelsea's target has to be, man. It has to be a win a Premier League. We haven't won the Premier League in like a freaking decade. Yes, so what does this mean that Spurs are interested in Paul Winstanley? Well, it means someone's told Matt Law that, and he can write about it to try and like give him better PR, I guess. I know people that have dealt with Winstanley that didn't like him. No matter like, as much copium as I can say about some of the signings I like, about some of the incentivized structure to the contracts, about looking further afield to get your Estevaos, to take a risk on a Cole Palmer, though I do put that at Joe Shields' door. If for some reason, like the owners aren't going to leave Chelsea like anytime soon, unless they just decide the rift between Clearlake and Bowley's so fractured and whatever, one buys the other one out, or I don't see them selling. Maybe one buys the other one out, and if you ask Chelsea fans, they'd probably say they'd prefer Bowley to buy out Clearlake. It's very unlikely, but if you really want this big change, what would actually send a ripple, and this is really interesting because obviously this has come out now, Spurs are interested in Winstanley. What would send a ripple, and this is the telling thing, I think genuinely it would send a ripple of hope across the Chelsea fan base, is if they sacked the sporting director. Do you know what I mean? Like, if they're like, did like, not even like these guys are bad, see you later, but they just did that we're thankful for their work. You know when there's like a positive parting of the ways, like when Roman did a nice statement when Lampard left, like, thank you for the signings of Estevao and Palmer and these guys, and they've helped build a young squad that won the Club World Cup, and all very well, but we're going to bring in freaking Luis Campos. He'll be like whether it would work or be a disaster, I don't know, but he's a name that was linked to Chelsea many years ago. Of course, he built that treble or quadruple winning side, PSG. They're like, we're going to bring in Luis Campos. There would be this renewed sort of sense of hope across the Chelsea fan base. Look, man, I'm not ready to completely throw in the towel with what's going on. If we reach our targets this season, if we buy a couple of extra players, maybe including a goalkeeper, and Cole Palmer gets his groove back, like, it can be okay as it is. We'll have to see and get into it. But let's talk about Cole Palmer now, actually. Okay, so this is an article from Nazar Kinsella of the Bibica, of the BBC. I just need to be holding like a controller here, and I'll look like a real streamer. All right, let's go into it. So Nazar Kinsella has done a piece on Cole Palmer, writing the following: he was named the 8th best player in the world at the Ballon d'Or ceremony in just September, but both data and the eye test indicate a dip in form. Boy, is that true. The 23-year-old is still regarded within Chelsea as untouchable. You'd hope so, Rudiek. Former head coach Maresca labelled him as the club's best player a few times, by the way. He really hammered that home. While his successor, Rosenia, has held multiple meetings with his star forward since taking charge. However, even by the reigning PFA Young Player of the Year's own admission, Palmer is not yet operating at his fluid, brilliant best, with several mitigating factors contributing to that downturn. He needs to be back, dude. We need to get him back. Firstly, as Professional Footballers Association Chief Executive, God, this is a mouthful, Maheta Molengo said the England forward is likely to be suffering from burnout. When I look at someone like Palmer, 3 consecutive summers without a break, that is mental. He says at the Financial Times Football Summit, people will say he's a millionaire, yes, but it doesn't give him an extra lung and an extra leg. I want to see Cole Palmer on the pitch because he's the one who makes me dream. Love that. Makes me dream. 3 years without a summer off resulted in 112 games for club and country, with the addition of the Club World Cup fixtures for Chelsea, the European Championship with England, and the Under-21 Championship before that. You remember, you played that before as well. Yeah, probably burnout, bro. Especially with all the emotional stuff that come with his like insane exponential rise to fame and all the noise and the the Cole Palmer celebration and friggin' the stuff and all the promo in America and the jewel in the crown of Chelsea and the infinite awards and stories about him. Physical, and emotional, mental burnout's probably it, dude. Those managing him did not consider it a coincidence that the demands on Palmer increased. His fitness suffered. The forward began struggling with a painful recurring groin issue at the end of the last season. He had only partially recovered by December when returning after more than 6 weeks out, and Chelsea's medical team continued to monitor him closely. The fabled, medical team. Asked by BBC Sport about Palmer's display following the defeat to Arsenal, he said he played 83 minutes. That was tactical. So this is the gaffer, I think, Resinha. When I took him and Fernandez off, they were both on yellow cards, and I wanted Gardner and Delap on. I think no one was complaining Palmer was taken off on the 83rd minute in that game, considering how he's playing and how he's been injured. But it's good to hear that he didn't bring him off because he aggravated the injury. So the data isn't good. We don't need to go into the data. The numbers are bad. But he's got 7 goals and 3 assists in 16 matches, but 4 of those 7 goals of penalties. I mean, it's not awful numbers anyway, but it's just nowhere near Palmer numbers. Without Palmer, Chelsea have won... Hold on. Without Palmer, Chelsea have won 73% of their games this season, compared to just 24% when he plays. I haven't sorted out this crash zoom. What? What? So we win 3/4 of our games without him, and we win 1/4 of our games with him. They have taken 2.27 points per match without him, compared to 1.18. Right, so hold on. What? That's just blown my mind. Hold on. He's injured, he's out of confidence, but also he's probably being played against the harder teams, right? You bring him back in for the harder tests, and often we've been losing those. Or drawing, you know what I mean? Or drawing, with neither of which are considered wins, so they can't contribute to a win percentage. So, for example, did he play in the Arsenal 1-1 draw when Caicedo was sent off? I have a feeling maybe not. Maybe not, no. But, yeah, you have to take that into consideration, that he's being put against harder players. I mean, what? That is insane, though. 75% without and 25%, give or take, a couple of percentages. That's insane. That is insane. Could Chelsea manage Palmer better? At the beginning of last season, Chelsea rested Palmer for the pre-season tour of the USA, giving him a platform to start 36 Premier League matches during the last year, basically. Palmer was mostly rested in the Conference League, but played 556 out of 570 minutes available at the Club World Cup in what he said were difficult conditions. Yeah, it was hella hot. I mean, he smashed out there, though. He obviously won Player of the Tournament, Man of the Match in the final, and won the whole goddamn thing. It led to a 336-day season for Palmer, despite him being afforded time off during a pre-season. Chelsea delayed the start of pre-season training, but ultimately only had 35 days, the club's shortest ever break between seasons, 2 days fewer than the pandemic season, basically. It was then Palmer's painful groin issue worsened, something he has been trying to overcome during 2 separate spells, having been permitted time to train with his cousin, a personal trainer in Dubai. We've seen the players gone to Dubai recently. Chelsea sources Chelsea sources, both privately and publicly, have denied Palmer requires any surgical intervention. That's been a huge talking point. People keep coming back to that. Does Cole Palmer need surgery? Is he avoiding surgery so he can still try and get into the World Cup squad with Tuchel? That is a huge talking point. So, publicly and privately, that's been denied that he doesn't need surgery. That's a good thing, right? I mean, if we are to believe it, or if they're just saying that, I don't know why they'd lie. You don't know what they'd lie. Maybe he just needs to have recuperation time. I think we would probably give them the benefit of the doubt and believe that. So, no surgery required. After Chelsea's 3-1 win over Wolves in February, when Palmer scored 3 times, 2 penalties, still a hat-trick. He said, I'm still not there physically, but I hope with the medical staff that I will come back and show my level again. Chelsea's medical department, led by Australian Bryce Kavanagh, who was always in, he used to be the head of the FA, he was always in Football Manager, his name kept popping up. He's succeeded in getting Reece James and Wesley Fofana playing regularly again, while Romeo Lavia remains a long-term project. I mean, if you brought all 3 of Lavia, Fofana and James back from the dead in terms of being injured all the time, then you've done good work. I mean, you've done good work, do you know what I mean? So if you deserve the time to work their magic on Palmer. The medicals team approach is one Rosenior appears to have bought into, and Maresca did not like, did he, when he left? Right, let's break it down. Yeah, I watched like a highlights package of him recently at the Club World Cup, killing it, looking amazing, and we do just massively miss him, man. And it's okay when he missed that sitter the other day. That would have been a winner, whatever game it was. Was it Leeds? I can't even remember. It's all a bit of a painful mush at the moment. And it's okay to criticise with him and expect better, because he is a great. If that's just a normal player, you go, oh, so-and-so, he's an alright player. He's pretty tidy, Mr. Sitter, but whatever. But it's okay to demand greatness from a great player. In the same way, I understand why Chelsea fans are so pissed off at the moment, if you excuse my French, because you have the right to demand greatness from Chelsea as a club, as a collective. Rosenior's made a lot of the right noises for that, but when you look at Cole, obviously Chelsea fans adore him. I think he does love Chelsea. I think all the Man United links are nonsense, personally. Even if he is a Man United fan, and even if he's homesick, it doesn't mean he wants. I mean, I got really annoyed with Pat Nevin's comments I spoke about on here about how Carrick getting the job would be enough to convince Palmer to go and play for Man United. I think that's mental. I don't look at Carrick's foot. Carrick's just letting the good forwards cook, basically, and setting up sensibly, unlike Amorim. And that's enough, because they've got way more maturity than us. But yeah, it's okay to demand the best from Palmer when he's on the pitch, and it's up to Chelsea to put him on the pitch when he can deliver the best. I think you guys I think many of you guys will be the same. I would much rather Palmer not be on the pitch if he's not 100%. And that win percentage I read to you earlier, 73% without win percentage, 24% with him, is mental. And that's not fair on us, him, or anyone involved. So let me know your thoughts, guys. Please do leave them down in the comment section. Thanks for joining me, for liking the video and subscribing if you want more content. Of course, available on podcast platforms. You just search Football Therapy Podcast. Give me a follow and 5-star if you want to help me out. All right, mate. See you soon. Take care. Peace. Goodbye.